Tonight, let's talk about a story that changed how America sees itself. A tale of childhood, courage, and learning what justice really means. Settle in wherever you are. This story will carry you gently. No pressure to remember every detail. Just let it wash over you softly. This is a story about when children discover the world isn't fair. About learning that good people sometimes lose, and why fighting matters anyway. Meet Scout Finch. 6 years old, stubborn as a mule, curious about everything. She lives in Macomb, Alabama, with her brother and father. The summer she turns 6 will change everything she believes. About neighbors, about her town, about what grown-ups call right and wrong. It's the 1930s. The Great Depression grips America. In small towns like Macomb, time moves slowly and everyone knows everyone's secrets. Macomb is a tired old town. In rainy weather the streets turn to red slop. Grass grows on sidewalks and the courthouse sags. The Finch family isn't poor, but they're not rich either. There's Atticus, their father and a lawyer, and Calpurnia, who runs the household. Their house sits on Macomb's main residential street. A quiet place with a big front porch and a tire swing hanging from the oak. Atticus became a widower when Scout was 2. Their mother died suddenly, and Atticus raised both children largely alone since then. Calpurnia is more than their housekeeper. She's been with them since Jem was born. She's strict, wise, and Scout both loves and resents her. Scout refuses to wear dresses. She fights boys who insult her. She questions everything adults tell her. She's magnificent and exhausting in equal measure. Jem is 4 years older, 10 to Scout's 6. He protects her, bosses her, and shares her adventures. They're rarely apart during long summer days. Summer arrives in Macomb like a slow warm wave. School ends, and the days stretch long and hot. This is when our story truly begins. Then Dill arrives from Meridian, Mississippi. He's 7 years old and tiny. No bigger than Scout, though a year older. He changes everything. Dill tells wild stories about his father, a railroad president, an airplane pilot, who knows what else. The children sense loneliness beneath his tales. The three become inseparable. They act out movies, explore abandoned lots, and invent elaborate games. But one house fascinates them above all others. The Radley place. It squats at the end of their street, shuttered and silent. The yard is overgrown. Nobody ever goes in or comes out. Inside lives Boo Radley. At least that's what the children believe. They've never seen him. Nobody has, not in years and years and years. The stories about Boo grow wilder with each telling. He stabbed his father with scissors. He eats raw squirrels. He drools and his eyes are poison. Dill becomes obsessed with making Boo come out. He bets Jem a book against 2 comic books that Jem won't touch the Radley house. Jem considers for 3 days. On the 3rd day he agrees. He'll run up, touch the house, and run back. What could possibly go wrong? Scout's heart pounds as Jem breaks into a run. His feet slap the dirt path. The Radley porch seems miles away. She can barely watch. Jem slaps the side of the house and races back. He's done it. But as they run home, Scout glances back. Was that movement in the window? Summer ends too quickly. Dill returns to Mississippi, promising to come back next year. Scout faces something arguably worse: her first day of school. School is a disaster. Scout already knows how to read. Atticus taught her, and her teacher, Miss Caroline, seems almost insulted by this fact. Walter Cunningham has no lunch and won't take money. He's poor but proud. His family pays debts with crops, not cash. Scout doesn't understand yet. That night, Atticus explains. To understand people, you must climb into their skin and walk around in it. See the world from their view. Walking home from school, Scout finds something strange in the knothole of the big oak tree by the Radley place. 2 pieces of chewing gum. Who left them there? Scout chews the gum before Jem can stop her. It's perfectly good. Someone is leaving gifts in that tree. But who? More treasures appear in the knothole as weeks pass. 2 Indian head pennies, worn smooth and old. Someone keeps leaving gifts for the children. Jem keeps the treasures in a small box. They theorize endlessly about their mysterious benefactor. Could it really be someone from inside that dark house? Summer returns, and with it Dill. He bursts into their lives again with fresh stories and renewed obsession with the Radley mystery. They invent the Boo Radley game. Taking turns playing Boo, they act out his terrible legend. The scissors, the punishment, the years locked away. Atticus catches them mid-performance. His quiet disappointment cuts deeper than any punishment. Boo Radley is a human being, not entertainment. Undeterred, Dill concocts a new plan. They'll send Boo a note via fishing pole, asking him politely to come out. What could be more reasonable? Atticus intercepts them at the Radley fence. His voice is firm now. What Mr. Radley does is his own business. Leave that poor man alone. On Dill's last night that summer, they cannot resist one final adventure. They'll sneak into the Radley yard and peek through a window. A shadow passes across the porch. Then a shotgun blast rips through the night. Mr. Nathan Radley fires into the air. The children run for their lives. Jem's pants catch on the wire fence. He struggles free, leaving them behind. They escape in their underwear, hearts pounding with genuine terror. Jem returns alone for his pants that night. He can't face Atticus's disappointment. He finds them folded neatly on the fence, crudely mended. Someone fixed them. The knothole fills with new wonders. 2 figures carved from soap, a boy and a girl. Scout and Jem stare at tiny versions of themselves. Someone has been watching them play, watching them grow. The carvings are unmistakably Scout and Jem. This is not random kindness. A spelling bee medal comes next. Then a broken pocket watch on a chain. Each gift more personal than the last. Their secret friend keeps giving. Then one day they find the knothole filled with cement. Nathan Radley says the tree was dying. But Atticus looks at it and says the tree is healthy. Jem cries that night. Scout finds him on the porch, tears streaming down his face. He's beginning to understand what was taken from Boo and from them. Winter comes to Maycomb. For the first time in decades, snow falls on the little town. The children have never seen anything like it. That same cold night, Miss Maudie's house catches fire. The whole neighborhood gathers to watch it burn. The children stand shivering across the street. Atticus makes them stand in front of the Radley place, safely away from the fire. The night is bitterly cold. They watch for hours as embers rise. Back home, Scout discovers a blanket around her shoulders. She never felt it being placed there. Atticus's face is strange. Boo Radley gave her that blanket. But childhood games must end. Atticus takes a case that will change everything. Not just for his family, but for all of Maycomb County. Tom Robinson, a black man, stands accused of raping Mielo Well, a white woman. Atticus agrees to defend him. In 1930s Alabama, this is unthinkable. The town turns on Atticus. Scout hears the words at school from adults, from children alike. Nigger lover. She doesn't understand but knows it's meant to hurt. Scout fights. She fights Cecil Jacobs for calling Atticus names. She fights anyone who insults her father. Her fists fly before she can think. Atticus takes her aside. He's going to lose this case, he explains. But some things must be done even when you know you'll fail. Especially then. Christmas at Finch's Landing brings Cousin Francis. He's prissy and cruel, and he calls Atticus a nigger lover to Scout's face. The inevitable happens. Scout chases Francis across the yard and punches him bloody. Uncle Jack punishes her without asking why. Adult justice isn't always fair either. Later, Atticus explains to Jack, "You must hear both sides." Scout was provoked. She needs to learn control, but she also needs to be heard. February brings something terrifying. A rabid dog named Tim Johnson staggers down the main street of Maycomb. The town locks its doors and waits. Sheriff Heck Tate arrives with a rifle, but his hands shake. The shot is difficult. He hands the rifle to Atticus. One shot. The dog drops dead. Scout and Jem are stunned. Their quiet, bookish father was once the deadliest shot in Maycomb County. They called him One-Shot Finch. They never knew. Miss Maudie explains Atticus is a gentleman. He put down the rifle because God gave him an unfair advantage. Real courage isn't about what you can do. Old Mrs. Dubose sits on her porch each day, shouting horrible things at the children. She calls Atticus trash. She calls the children worse. One day Jem snaps. He takes Scout's baton and destroys every camellia bush in Mrs. Dubose's yard. White petals fly like snow. Rage becomes destruction. Atticus's punishment is strange. Jem must read to Mrs. Dubose every afternoon for a month. He must face the person he wronged and serve her. The readings are nightmarish. Mrs. Dubose drools, her head lolls, she falls into strange fits. Each day the alarm clock rings later before releasing them. Mrs. Dubose dies soon after. Atticus reveals the truth: she was a morphine addict, fighting to die free of it. The readings distracted her from pain. Real courage, Atticus says, isn't a man with a gun. It's knowing you're licked before you begin, but beginning anyway, and seeing it through. One Sunday, Calpurnia takes the children to her church. First Purchase African Methodist Episcopal, the black church outside of town, where white children never go. Lula blocks their way at the door. White children don't belong here, she says. But the congregation overrules her warmly. Reverend Sykes welcomes them personally. The congregation collects money for Helen Robinson, Tom's wife, alone now with children to feed. They pass the plate until they have enough. No one leaves until. Scout sees Calpurnia in a new way. Here she speaks differently, moves differently. She has a whole life the children never knew about, rich and complete. Walking home, Scout asks to visit Calpurnia's house someday. Calpurnia smiles, says she'd like that. But somehow it never happens. Some doors stay closed. When they arrive home, a surprise waits on the porch. Aunt Alexandra sits there with her bags, come to stay. Come to make Scout into a lady. Aunt Alexandra believes Scout needs feminine influence. No more overalls, no more climbing trees. A lady doesn't do such things. Scout's wild days are numbered. Aunt Alexandra settles in like she owns the place. She reorganizes, criticizes, and insists on family. The Finches are fine folk, she reminds them constantly. The Missionary Society ladies come for tea. They discuss the poor Munas in Africa while ignoring the poor black folks in their own backyard. Scout watches. Learning. One night Scout finds something under her bed. It's Dill, runaway from Meridian. He took the train as far as his money lasted, then walked. The truth comes out slowly. Dill's parents don't want him. They buy him things but never spend time with him. He's lonely to the bone. The night before the trial, Atticus leaves after supper. He doesn't say where he's going. Something in his manner makes Jem uneasy. Something is wrong. The children sneak out to find him. Atticus sits outside the jail, alone with a lamp and a book. He's guarding Tom Robinson from whatever might come. Cars arrive. Men climb out, farmers, townspeople, a mob. They want Tom Robinson. They want to skip the trial entirely. They have their own idea of justice. Scout breaks free from Jem and runs straight through the crowd to her father. Before anyone can stop her, she's standing at Atticus's side, looking up at the mob. Scout recognizes a face. Mr. Cunningham, Walter's father. She starts talking to him about his son, about his entailment, about normal things, human things. Mr. Cunningham kneels down to Scout's level. He tells the men to clear out. They leave. A child's innocence shamed them back into being human beings. Trial day. The courthouse square fills with people from all over Macomb County. Families bring picnic lunches. It's like a carnival, but someone's life hangs in the balance. Scout, Jem, and Dill can't get seats. The courtroom is packed solid with white faces. They're about to leave when Reverend Sykes finds them. He takes them up to the colored balcony. The black citizens make room, giving the children front row seats. They'll watch the trial from above, among the segregated. Sheriff Heck Tate takes the stand first. Miella Will was beaten on the right side of her face. The injuries were severe. Someone struck her with their left hand. Bob Will swaggers to the stand. He's red-faced, mean, and certain of himself. He saw Tom Robinson raping his daughter. He's proud to tell it. Atticus asks Bobwell to write his name. Ewell grabs the pen with his left hand. The courtroom stirs. Miella's injuries came from someone left-handed. Miella Will takes the stand. She's 19, thin and terrified beneath her defiance. She's been told what to say. But Atticus will be gentle with her. Her life emerges through questioning. No friends. No school. Taking care of 7 siblings while her father drinks. Red geraniums her only beauty, her only escape. Atticus presses carefully. Miella's story contradicts itself. She cannot remember key details. When Atticus calls her Mum, she thinks he's mocking her. She's never been respected. Tom Robinson takes the stand. He moves carefully, and for the first time the courtroom sees his left arm. It hangs dead and useless, withered since childhood. He cannot use that arm at all. Caught in a cotton gin when he was 12. He could not have beaten Miella Ewell. The evidence is written on his body. Tom tells his story. Miella often asked him for help with chores. He felt sorry for her, alone with all those children, her father always gone or drunk. That day, the children were gone. Miella asked Tom inside to fix a door. But there was nothing wrong with the door. She had sent the children away herself. Miella grabbed him and kissed him. Tom tried to push her away gently. Then Bobwell appeared in the window, face twisted with rage. Tom ran and never looked back. The prosecutor asks Tom why he helped Miella so often. Tom answers honestly he felt sorry for her. The white courtroom gasps. A black man pitying a white woman. Dill begins to cry uncontrollably. He can't stand how they're talking to Tom. With such cruelty, such contempt. Scout takes him outside to calm down. Outside they meet Dolphus Raymond, the town drunk who lives with a black woman. He offers Dill a sip from his paper sack. But it's only Coca-Cola. Raymond explains if people think he's drunk, they can understand why he lives how he lives. It's easier to give them a reason than to fight their assumptions. Inside, Atticus begins his closing argument. His voice is calm but carries across the silent courtroom. This is why he became a lawyer. This moment. Thomas Jefferson wrote that all men are created equal, Atticus says. It's not true in daily life. But in a courtroom, it must be true. That's why courts exist. Calpurnia appears suddenly at the courtroom door. She has a note. For Atticus, the children are missing. They've been missing all day. He turns and sees them in the balcony. The jury retires to deliberate. Minutes become hours. The courtroom empties and fills again. The children stay in the balcony, waiting. Everyone is waiting. Jem is confident. The evidence is overwhelming. Tom cannot be guilty. Anyone can see that. Atticus proved it beyond any doubt. Justice will be served. The jury returns. Scout watches the jurors' faces. Not one of them looks at Tom Robinson. She remembers Atticus telling her, "A jury that won't look means guilty." Guilty. The word falls like a stone into water. Jem's shoulders begin to shake. Scout watches her father gather his papers alone at the defense table. The white spectators file out. But in the colored balcony, no one moves. They stand in silence as Atticus prepares to leave. They're waiting for something. Reverend Sykes takes Scout's arm. "Miss Jean Louise," he says, "stand up. Your father's passing." She rises to her feet among the standing black community, honoring Atticus. Walking home through darkness, Jem cries angry tears. "It's not fair," he says over and over. "Tom didn't do anything wrong. It's not right. It's not fair." At home, Atticus explains. This is Maycomb's usual disease. When a white man does that to a black man, no matter who he is, the white man always wins. Miss Maudie brings cake the next morning. She reminds them some people in Maycomb tried. Judge Taylor assigned Atticus the case on purpose. Small steps forward, she says. Bob Ewell corners Atticus at the post office and spits in his face. The whole town watches. Atticus calmly takes out his handkerchief and wipes his face. Atticus tells his children he wishes Bob Ewell didn't chew tobacco. He won't fight him. He'd rather Ewell take out his anger on Atticus than on Miella. Tom Robinson is sent to a prison farm in Enfield to await his appeal. Atticus visits him, explains the process. "There's still hope," he says. Tom nods, but his eyes are empty. Aunt Alexandra's missionary tea continues despite everything. The ladies discuss sin in Africa while ignoring sin at home. Scout serves them cookies, watching and learning. Atticus appears at the parlor door, face gray. He asks Alexandra and Calpurnia to step out. When they return, Calpurnia's eyes are red. Tom Robinson is dead. Shot 17 times trying to escape. The guards say he ran for the fence. 17 times. As if they wanted to make absolutely sure he was dead. Aunt Alexandra and Miss Maudie compose themselves. The missionary ladies must not see weakness. There's tea to serve. Scout watches them put their masks back on. Scout picks up the tray of cookies and follows them. If Auntie and Miss Maudie can be ladies at a time like this, she can too. She learns what womanhood costs. Tom gave up? That's what Atticus believes. When a man like Tom Robinson sees he can't win, sometimes hope just dies. The appeal never had a chance to save him. Helen Robinson gets the news. Her knees buckle. Atticus catches her before she falls. She has children to raise alone now. The cost of injustice lands on her shoulders. Summer fades into autumn. The leaves turn amber and gold on the oaks of Macon. Life goes on, but something dark still lingers beneath the surface. Bobwell hasn't forgotten. He tells anyone who'll listen that Atticus made a fool of him. He wants revenge. He's just waiting for the right moment. Someone breaks into Judge Taylor's house one Sunday night. The judge finds his screen slashed, a shadow running across his backyard. He suspects Bobwell. Helen Robinson tries to walk to work. Bobwell follows her every day, just far enough behind to be legal. He mutters things. He makes her afraid to leave home. Link Dees, Helen's employer, confronts Bobwell publicly. If Ewell doesn't leave Helen alone, there'll be consequences. Ewell backs off, but his hatred only grows deeper. Atticus dismisses the threats. Bobwell needed to feel like he won something, he says. He'll settle down now. The man's had his say. It's over. October brings the Halloween pageant at the school. The whole town is invited to the high school auditorium. Scout has a part, a very particular part. Scout has been cast as a ham. She'll represent pork in the agricultural pageant. Her costume is made of chicken wire wrapped in brown cloth, shaped like a cured ham. The costume is absurd, but Scout is committed. She can barely see through the chicken wire. She can barely walk. She practices her one line, pork. The night of the pageant arrives. Atticus is too tired to attend, but Jem will escort Scout. They'll walk through the shortcut, the dark path behind the Radley place. The pageant is chaotic and cheerful. Agricultural products parade across stage. Cotton, beans, corn. When Scout's cue comes, she's asleep backstage. She misses it entirely. Scout wakes and stumbles on stage for the finale, far too late. She ruins Mrs. Merriweather's careful pageant. The audience laughs. Merriweather is furious. Scout is too embarrassed to face anyone. She makes Jem wait until the auditorium empties and the lights go out. They'll walk home in the dark, alone. They take the shortcut through the woods. No moonlight reaches through the trees. Scout can't see anything through her costume. She holds Jem's hand. Jem stops. Did Scout hear that? Footsteps behind them in the leaves. They freeze. The footsteps stop too. Just the wind. An animal. Something else. They start walking again. The footsteps resume. Closer now, faster. Someone is following them through the woods. This is not their imagination. This is real. Jem tells Scout to run. Now. The footsteps behind them break into a sprint. Someone is running at them through the darkness. There's no more pretending. Run, Scout, run! Jem screams it again and again. Scout stumbles in her costume, falls, can't see, can't move fast enough. The costume that seemed funny is now a trap. Scout hears scuffling, grunting, the sounds of a fight. She hears Jem cry out in pain, a terrible crack, then silence. Where is Jem? Where is he? The crack was Jem's arm breaking. Someone grabbed him, snapped his arm like a twig. Scout screams. Arms grab at her costume, crushing the wire frame around her. Then another person enters the fight, a fourth figure. Someone pulls the attacker off Scout. The sounds of struggle continue, but Scout is no longer the target. Scout staggers to her feet. In the darkness she sees someone carrying Jem, carrying him toward the lights of home. His arm hangs wrong. He's not moving. The Finch house erupts. Dr. Reynolds comes running. Jem is unconscious but alive. His arm badly broken, his head bruised. Scout is shaken but physically unhurt. The costume saved her. Sheriff Hecate arrives with terrible news. Bobwell lies dead under the big oak tree where the children were attacked. There's a kitchen knife between his ribs. A kitchen knife. Someone stabbed Bobwell while he was trying to kill the children. The man who terrorized the town is dead. But who killed him? Scout tells her story while still wearing the crushed remains of her costume. She describes the sounds, the struggle, the person who carried Jem home. She couldn't see who. A man stands in the corner of Jem's room, pressed against the wall. He's been there all along, so still Scout didn't notice him. He must have carried Jem home. Pale skin, never touched by sun. Colorless eyes that blink in the light. Thin trembling. He looks terrified of her. She knows who this is. "Hey Boo," Scout whispers. Just like that. As if she's known him all her life. And in a way she has. He's been watching over them for years. Boo Radley. Arthur Radley, the monster of Scout's childhood nightmares, turns out to be a gentle soul. He's shaking like a leaf. More afraid of people than they ever were of him. Scout takes his hand and leads him to sit by Jem's bed. His skin is cool and papery, like someone who never goes outside. She treats him like a friend. Boo reaches out and touches Jem's hair with fingers light as feathers. He strokes it once, twice. He saved this boy. He nearly didn't get there in time. Atticus and Sheriff Tate step onto the porch to talk. Scout follows, leading Boo. The adults need to decide what to tell the town about what happened tonight. Hecate insists on his version. Bobwell fell on his own knife. It was dark, there was a struggle, these things happen. He fell on his knife, that's the story. Atticus thinks he understands. He thinks Jem killed Bobwell in the struggle. He won't have his son protected by a lie. If Jem did this, the town must know. "Mr. Finch," the sheriff says carefully, "Jem never stabbed Bobwell." The sheriff looks toward the man sitting in the shadows of the porch swing. Someone else did. Atticus understands now. Boo Radley killed Bobwell. To save Jem and Scout, the gentlest person in Maycomb took a life. And now must be protected from the consequences. Hecate won't arrest Boo Radley. He won't drag this shy, broken man into the spotlight for killing a man who deserved killing. Some things are more important than the letter of the law. "Let the dead bury the dead," the sheriff says. Bobwell fell on his knife. He had it coming, and this way his children might have a chance. Justice isn't always courts and lawyers. Atticus kneels before Scout. He needs to know she understands what's being decided here. They're protecting Boo by not telling the truth. Can she keep this secret? Scout's answer is perfect. "It would be like shooting a mockingbird," she says. Atticus kisses her forehead. She has learned his lessons better than he knew. Boo speaks for the first time. His voice is rusty, unused. "Will you take me home?" he asks Scout. He wants to leave this brightness and return to his darkness. Scout takes his arm the way a lady escorts a gentleman. She walks Boo Radley home, this man she once feared. This man who just saved her life and her brother's. They walk slowly down the street to the Radley place. Boo's steps are hesitant on the unfamiliar outside ground. Scout guides him gently, patiently, like leading a child. They climb the Radley porch steps together. Scout has touched this porch once before, on a dare. Now she stands here as a friend. Boo pauses at the door. Boo goes inside, the door closes. Scout will never see him again. But she stands on his porch and looks out at her neighborhood. And finally sees what Boo has seen. From here, Boo watched them play summer after summer. He saw Scout in her tire swing. He saw Jem growing taller each year. He watched over them like a guardian angel. The gifts in the knothole. The blanket during the fire. The mended pants. Boo's love for them expressed in the only ways he could manage. They were never really alone. Scout walks home in the October darkness. Her childhood is over now, really over. She has seen the worst of people and the best. She will remember both. Atticus is sitting by Jem's bed, reading. He'll stay there all night. He won't leave his son alone after what happened. This is what fathers do. Scout curls up in the chair beside her father. She asks him to read aloud. She wants to hear his voice, steady and safe, filling the darkness with words. The book is called The Gray Ghost, a silly children's story about a phantom who turns out to be innocent all along. Just like someone they know now. Scout falls asleep to the sound of her father's voice. Atticus's words about the gray ghost when they finally saw him, he was real nice. Most people are, Scout mumbles, when you finally see them. Atticus carries Scout to her bed. He holds her like he held her when she was a baby. She's still small enough to carry, but not for much longer. He returns to Jem's room. He'll watch over his son until morning, and in the houses all down the street, Maycomb sleeps, not knowing what happened in the darkness tonight. That image stays with us. Atticus keeping watch through the night. A father protecting his children even after the danger has passed. Love made visible in vigil. What did Scout learn that year? The hardest lessons, given in the hardest ways. That courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite the fear. Atticus showed her courage. Fighting a case he knew he'd lose because it was right to fight it. Standing up when everyone told him to sit down. Tom Robinson showed her courage too. Maintaining his dignity on that witness stand while hatred poured down on him. Telling the truth knowing it wouldn't save him. Boo Radley showed her courage, the quiet kind. Leaving his safe darkness to save children in danger. For Boo, just stepping outside took more bravery than most people ever need. Mrs. Dubose showed her courage, facing death without the comfort of morphine. Beating her addiction before she died, just to prove she could. Dying free. And then there's the Mockingbird. Atticus taught Scout it's a sin to kill a mockingbird. The only time he ever said something was a sin. Why? Because they only make music. Tom Robinson was a mockingbird. He only tried to help. He saw a lonely girl with too much work and not enough kindness, and he helped her. That's all he did. Boo Radley was a mockingbird too. Damaged by life, hidden away, but his heart reached out to those children year after year. Gifts in knotholes, protection in darkness. To kill a mockingbird is to destroy innocence. To punish someone for their kindness. To take something beautiful and gentle and crush it, because you can. Mockingbirds make music for us. They give without taking. They harm no one. All they ask is to be left in peace. Is that really so much to ask? By the story's end, Scout has completed her education. Not the kind they teach in Maycomb Elementary. The real kind. About how people work and fail, and sometimes surprise you. She learned to see from other people's perspectives. To climb into their skin, as Atticus said, and walk around. To understand before judging. To look before leaping to conclusions. She learned that monsters aren't always what they seem. That the scariest house on the street might hold the kindest heart. That stories told about people are often wrong. This book has taught those lessons to millions of readers since 1960. It continues teaching them today. Some stories are so true they never get old. Maycomb is every small town where prejudice hides behind good manners. Where everyone knows everyone's business, but nobody faces the truth about themselves. Every town has its outcasts, its Boo Radleys and Tom Robinsons. People who don't fit the mold get pushed to the margins, watched with suspicion, denied their humanity. Every family needs an Atticus, or mourns his absence. Someone who shows children how to be good not by telling them, but by being good where they can see. Children learn by watching. Scout and Jem absorb their father's values by seeing him live them, day after day, choice after choice. That's how character forms. Scout and Jem learned compassion because they saw compassion. They learned fairness because their father was fair. They learned courage because he was courageous when it cost him. Atticus never preached. He never gave long lectures about right and wrong. He just did right consistently and let his children draw their own conclusions. They did. The trial was a crucible. It tested everyone in Maycomb, forced them to show who they really were when it mattered. Most failed that test, but not all. Miss Maudie passed. She saw clearly and spoke honestly. Judge Taylor passed. He assigned Atticus the case on purpose, hoping for justice. Dolphus Raymond passed in his own way. Most of Maycomb failed. They knew Tom was innocent and convicted him anyway. They let fear and hate and tradition override truth. That was the expected outcome. And yet the fight mattered. Atticus didn't expect to win, but he fought anyway. Because fighting changes things slowly, over time. Because watching him fight changed Scout and Jem forever. Real courage, Atticus said, isn't a man with a gun in his hand. It's not strength or skill or righteous anger. Real courage is something quieter and harder. Real courage is knowing you're licked before you begin, seeing the odds stacked impossibly against you, and starting anyway because it's the right thing to do. Seeing it through, no matter what. That's the rest of it. Starting is just the beginning. Real courage means not quitting when it gets hard, and it always gets hard. Tom Robinson understood this kind of courage. He maintained his dignity even when the system crushed him. He told the truth even when lies might have been easier. Atticus understood it. He knew the jury would convict. He knew the town would hate him. He took the case anyway and gave it everything he had. By story's end, Scout understands this too. She's only 8, but she's learned more than many adults ever do. She knows what matters now. She won't forget. The mystery of Boo Radley resolves beautifully. Years of fear dissolve in one moment of recognition. The monster becomes the savior. The ghost becomes a friend. Boo was never a monster. He was a damaged man broken by his family, hidden from the world that hurt him. But his heart stayed gentle. His love found ways out. Through Nuthole gifts and secret watches, Boo loved those children from afar. He couldn't join the world, but he could reach toward it. He chose connection over complete isolation. The children's fear transformed into something better. What we fear most often deserves our compassion. The scary and strange are usually just lonely and misunderstood. Scout's final understanding comes on Boo's porch. Standing where he stood all those years, she finally sees. Empathy isn't abstract, it's physical. It's standing where someone else stands. Sometimes people cannot face the world. The world has hurt them too deeply. They retreat and hide and never come back out. We might never know why. But even the most withdrawn souls find ways to show love. Even from behind closed doors, hearts reach out. Connection persists despite barriers. Love finds a way. The Nuthole gifts were Boo's language. He couldn't speak to the children directly, but he could leave them treasures. He could show them someone was watching, someone cared. The blanket on cold nights said what words could not. I am here. I am watching. You are not alone in the dark. Someone sees you. The mended pants told Jem someone understood his fear of disappointing his father. Someone took the time to sew them neat, fold them careful, leave them where he'd find them. And finally, the ultimate gift, their lives. When Bob Ewell came with murder in his heart, Boo came too. He gave everything to save them. He killed to protect innocence. Scout still calls him Boo, her childhood name for the mystery. She never knew him as anything else. But now the name means friend, not phantom. But she sees Arthur now too. The man beneath the legend, the person beneath the stories. He's damaged and shy and kind and brave. He's human. That's enough. Growing up means seeing people clearly, not as types or categories or stories told about them. As individuals, complicated and capable of surprising you, for good or ill. Not as monsters or angels. Not as heroes or villains. Just as people doing their best with what they have. Or sometimes not doing their best at all. We are all complicated. We contain contradictions. The challenge is to see past our first impressions, past the stories we're told, to the truth beneath. The Ewells chose cruelty. They had reasons. Poverty, ignorance, their own wounds. But they still chose. Bob could have walked away that night. He didn't. Tom Robinson chose kindness despite the risk. He knew the danger of a black man alone with a white woman. He helped her anyway because she needed help. Boo Radley chose to save lives despite his fear. He'd spent years hiding from the world. But when the children needed him, he emerged. Love overcame terror. Atticus chose justice despite the cost. He could have declined the case, kept his standing in town, protected his children from harassment. He chose the harder right. These choices define us. Not our circumstances, not our histories, not what others do to us. Our choices. What we do when no one makes us do anything. Scout will remember these lessons her whole life. She watched courage and cowardice, kindness and cruelty, justice sought and justice denied. She learned what matters. And now, so have you. You've walked through Macomb with Scout, watched the trial, met Boo Radley, understood the Mockingbird. These lessons belong to you now too. Stories do that. They give us experiences we couldn't have otherwise. They let us live other lives and learn their lessons. That's the magic of a great book. Now let's step outside the story for a while. Who wrote this remarkable book? What world did she come from? The answer might surprise you. Harper Lee was born Nell Harper Lee in 1926 in Monroeville, Alabama. A small town remarkably similar to the Macomb she would one day create. Her father was Amasa Coleman Lee, a lawyer who served in the Alabama state legislature. He defended black clients in a time and place where few white lawyers would. A.C. Lee once defended two black men accused of murder. He lost the case. Both men were hanged. Some say he never took another criminal case after that. Young Nell was a tomboy, just like Scout. She wore overalls, climbed trees, fought boys who annoyed her. Her mother struggled with mental illness, often absent from family life. Her best friend lived next door, a small, pale boy with enormous imagination and a difficult home life. His name was Truman Streckfus Persons. You might know him better as Truman Capote. Truman became Dill in the novel, the strange little visitor full of wild stories and hidden loneliness. Capote himself confirmed it. He recognized his childhood self on every page. There was even a real Boo Radley. A reclusive neighbor named Son Bulwer lived near the Lees. The children made up stories about him, dared each other to approach his house. The Bulwer family kept their son hidden for reasons lost to time. Mental illness, perhaps, or something else. He became a phantom in the children's minds, and eventually, in literature. Harper Lee studied law at the University of Alabama, following her father's footsteps. But her heart wasn't in it. She left before finishing, driven by a different calling. She moved to New York City in 1949. A Southern girl alone in the big city, working as an airline reservation agent while trying to write. The work was exhausting. Writing happened in stolen hours, early mornings, late nights, weekends. Years passed with little to show for it. Most writers know this struggle intimately. Then came the miracle, Christmas 1956. Her friends Michael and Joy Brown gave her an extraordinary gift. An envelope with a note and a year's salary inside. The note read, "You have 1 year off from your job to write whatever you please. Merry Christmas." With that gift of time, Harper Lee began writing in earnest. She wrote a novel about her Alabama childhood. About a father like hers, children like her and Truman, a mystery like the one down the street. She wrote what she knew. Her editor Tay Hohoff saw something special in the rough manuscript. But it needed work, significant reshaping over 2.5 years. Hohoff became her guide and partner. The original novel was told from adult Scout's perspective, looking back with grown-up understanding. Hohoff suggested something radical. Tell it through the child's eyes instead. That choice transformed everything. Through a child's eyes, injustice looks starker. Hypocrisy is more obvious. And courage, like Atticus's, seems more remarkable when witnessed by someone who doesn't yet understand the cost. 2.5 years of revision followed. Cutting, reshaping, polishing. What emerged was one of the most perfect novels in American literature. Sometimes genius needs time and help. To Kill a Mockingbird was published on July 11, 1960. Harper Lee was 34 years old. Neither she nor anyone else expected what came next. The timing was extraordinary. America stood on the brink of its great civil rights upheaval. The movement was gathering force. The nation was about to confront its original sin. Brown v. Board of Education had declared school segregation unconstitutional 6 years before. But the South resisted. Change was coming, violently opposed but inevitable. Rosa Parks had refused to give up her bus seat 5 years earlier. The Montgomery bus boycott had proven that peaceful resistance could work. The nation was watching. As Harper Lee's book reached stores, sit-ins were happening across the South. Young people were demanding justice at lunch counters, facing violence with dignity. Sound familiar? Into this moment came a novel about racial injustice in the small-town South. About a good man fighting a losing battle for a black man's life. The timing was perfect. A book about racial injustice arrived at the moment America most needed it. Not angry or preachy, just honest. Told through a child's wondering eyes. It reached hearts that arguments couldn't. The book became an immediate bestseller. It stayed on the bestseller list for 88 weeks. Readers devoured it and pressed copies into friends' hands. This is important, they said, read this. In 1961, Harper Lee won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction, the highest honor American literature can bestow. She was 35 years old, and this was her first novel. The novel was translated into more than 40 languages. It sold millions of copies worldwide. People in countries Harper Lee had never visited found truth in her small Alabama town. To date, the book has sold more than 40 million copies. It has never been out of print since 1960. Generations have grown up with Scout and Atticus. Hollywood came calling. In 1960, Universal Pictures released the film adaptation. And they found the perfect Atticus Finch in an actor named Gregory Peck. Peck understood Atticus in his bones. He brought the character's quiet dignity, his moral certainty, his patient love for his children. Many people can no longer imagine Atticus without seeing Peck. Gregory Peck won the Academy Award for Best Actor. In his acceptance speech, he thanked Harper Lee for creating such a character. He considered Atticus the role of his lifetime. Harper Lee and Gregory Peck became lifelong friends. They recognized something in each other, perhaps the same moral seriousness that made Atticus possible. Their friendship lasted until Peck's death. She gave him her father's pocket watch, the model for Atticus's watch in the book, the gift that passed from A.C. Lee to his daughter to the man who brought Atticus to life. The novel became required reading in schools across America. English teachers assigned it, discussed it, built lessons around it. For many students, it was their introduction to serious literature. Generations of American students met Scout Finch and walked through Maycomb with her. They watched the trial, met Boo Radley, learned what their teachers hoped they would learn about justice. Countless lawyers cite Atticus Finch as the reason they entered law. He showed them what the profession could be. A way to fight for justice, to defend the defenseless. After her triumph, Harper Lee did something unexpected. She retreated from public life almost completely. She gave almost no interviews. She published nothing more for over 50 years. Why the silence? Some said she couldn't bear to follow a masterpiece. Others said she'd said what she had to say. She herself rarely explained. The silence became part of her legend. She lived quietly in Monroeville, the real-life Maycomb. She went to church, visited friends. Lived as ordinary a life as possible for someone who'd written an American classic. In 2015, a second novel was published, Go Set a Watchman. It had actually been written before Mockingbird, an earlier draft that Ohoff had reshaped into the masterpiece we know. The publication was controversial. Harper Lee was elderly and unwell. Some questioned whether she truly authorized it. The book showed a different, more flawed Atticus, troubling to many readers. Harper Lee died in February 2016, age 89. She was buried in Monroeville, beside her father and mother and sister. She'd outlived everyone who'd known her childhood. Truman Capote had died decades before, In 1984, the two childhood friends who'd become famous writers never reconciled after a falling out. Some mysteries remain unsolved. Today, the Monroeville Courthouse has been preserved as a museum. The courtroom where A.C. Lee practiced law looks much as it did in the 1930s. Visitors come from around the world. Every year, local actors perform a stage adaptation in the actual courtroom. Atticus delivers his closing argument where A.C. Lee once argued real cases. Fiction and reality merge. Visitors walk the streets Harper Lee walked. They see the house that inspired the Radley place. They stand where Scout might have stood, imagining her world around them. A small-town Alabama girl wrote one book. It changed how America sees itself. It gave us Atticus and Scout and Boo and Tom. It gave us a way to talk about justice. That's the power of stories. One person's memories, shaped by craft and time, become everyone's shared understanding. Harper Lee's Maycomb belongs to all of us now. So why does this book still matter? 60+ years after publication, why do we keep reading it, teaching it, adapting it? What keeps pulling us back? Some critics argue the book is outdated. They point to its perspective. A white savior narrative, they call it. A white lawyer hero saving a helpless black victim. They note that Tom Robinson's story is told through a white child's eyes. We see his suffering filtered through Scout's understanding, not through his own. This is a valid criticism. The novel has real limitations. It reflects who wrote it and when. A white Southern woman in the 1950s, working within her own understanding. But the novel never claims to be Tom Robinson's story. It's Scout's story, about a child learning empathy. Learning that the world is more complicated than she thought. And that's a valuable story too. Change begins somewhere. Often it begins with children watching adults and choosing to be different. That's what Scout does. Scout learns to question her society. She sees the hypocrisy, the cruelty, the casual evil. And she chooses to stand with her father instead of with the mob. Sometimes that's how change begins. With children watching adults and choosing differently. With one generation refusing to inherit the sins of the previous one. The second novel complicated Atticus. Go Set a Watchman showed an older Atticus with segregationist views. Troubling to readers who loved him as a moral hero. But in Mockingbird, Atticus models moral courage at its best. He shows children, and readers, what it looks like to fight for justice even when you'll lose. He teaches his children to question their society, to see people as individuals, to extend compassion even to those who seem undeserving. Those lessons matter, whoever teaches them. That's revolutionary even now. Teaching children to question what everyone around them accepts. Teaching them that authority can be wrong. Teaching them to think for themselves. The book has faced challenges and bans throughout its history. Schools have removed it for language, for themes, for making white people uncomfortable about racism, which perhaps proves its power. Comfortable books don't get banned. Books that challenge us, that make us examine ourselves. Those are the dangerous ones. Those are the ones worth reading. Uncomfortable truths tend to get banned. The fact that this book still makes people uncomfortable suggests it still has something to teach. We haven't fully learned its lessons yet. Modern adaptations continue to find audiences. The story keeps being retold because people keep needing to hear it. Each generation discovers it anew. Aaron Sorkin's Broadway adaptation premiered in 2018. Jeff Daniels played Atticus to enormous acclaim. The production broke box office records for American plays. Sorkin's version gave more voice to Calpurnia and Tom Robinson, addressing some of the original's limitations. Adaptations can grow while honoring what they adapt. The story reaches new audiences in new forms. But the core remains courage in the face of injustice. Compassion extended to the outcast. Children learning hard truths. Each generation finds different meaning in the book. Readers in the 1960s saw civil rights. Readers today might see mass incarceration, police violence, persistent inequality. The details change, but the pattern repeats. Innocent people punished by systems designed to harm them. Good people fighting losing battles because they're right. Mockingbirds keep dying. After George Floyd's death in 2020, sales of the novel surged again. People reached for stories about injustice, about standing up, about hope amid despair. People reach for this book when they need it. When injustice feels overwhelming. When they need to believe that fighting matters even when you lose. And about those who stand against injustice. Atticus didn't win. Tom Robinson died. But the fight mattered. It changed Scout. It changed Jem. Maybe it changed Maycomb a little. That's Atticus's real lesson. You fight because it's right, not because you'll win. You might not live to see the change you're fighting for. You fight anyway. You fight because your children are watching. Because what you do teaches them what's possible. Because giving up teaches them that giving up is acceptable. Scout's lesson complements Atticus's. See people as they are. Walk in their skin. Understand before you judge. Compassion isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Walk around in their skin. See from their perspective. That's how prejudice dies. Not through argument, but through understanding. Through imagining yourself as someone else. Understand before you judge. The scary neighbor might be kind. The accused might be innocent. The person you despise might have reasons you can't see. The mockingbird metaphor resonates across decades. There will always be innocent people destroyed by systems too powerful to challenge. Tom Robinson's in every generation. There will always be innocent people harmed by power they can't fight. The mockingbirds don't stop dying just because we named the sin. But naming it matters. There will always be systems designed to crush certain people. Racism isn't gone, it changes form and continues. The trial of Tom Robinson still happens, in different courtrooms. But challenging those systems matters anyway. Every Atticus who stands up teaches someone watching. Every fight lost moves something forward, even if we can't see it. Every child who reads this book learns that standing up has value. Even when you lose. Maybe especially when you lose. That's the lesson Harper Lee left us. 60 years of readers have learned that lesson. Millions of people carry Atticus's example with them. Some became lawyers. Some became teachers. All became more thoughtful. That's how literature changes the world. Not all at once, not dramatically. One reader at a time, one small shift in understanding, one choice to be kinder or braver. Maybe especially when you lose. Losing teaches something that winning never can. It teaches you that the fight matters more than the outcome. That's a lesson worth learning. Harper Lee gave us that gift. A story that teaches moral courage through love, not through lecturing. Through showing, not telling. Through a child's wondering eyes. Not through preaching but through living. Through Atticus living his values so his children could absorb them. Through Scout growing into understanding. Through story, not sermon. That's why we keep returning to Maycomb. That's why Scout and Atticus and Boo still live in our minds. The story tells us who we could be, if we tried. Now the night grows late, and our time in Maycomb draws to a close. The story has been told. The lessons have been shared. Rest is approaching. Like Scout at the end of her story, perhaps you're drifting now. Your eyes growing heavy. The words becoming a gentle current carrying you towards sleep. Atticus read to her that night, his voice steady and calm. The Gray Ghost, a silly story about a phantom who turned out to be real nice. Most people are, Scout mumbled before sleep took her. Real nice when you finally see them. That might be the wisest thing anyone says in the whole book. That's perfectly all right, falling asleep to a story. That's what bedtime stories are for. The words carry you somewhere safe, and you drift off, and that's the point. Remember the porch swing in summer heat. Creaking gently back and forth, Scout and Jem watching the street, waiting for something to happen in sleepy Maycomb. The fireflies blinking in mason jars, the cicadas singing their endless summer song. Those long Alabama evenings when time seemed to stretch forever, and childhood felt permanent. The slow pace of small-town life, where everyone knew everyone, where news traveled by word of mouth, where a rabid dog on Main Street was the biggest event in months. Miss Maudie's cakes cooling on the kitchen window. Calpurnia's hands shaping biscuits for supper. The small comforts that made a house a home, that made children feel safe. Atticus coming home at evening, newspaper under his arm, pushing through the screen door, Scout running to greet him. The daily rhythm of family life, reliable and reassuring. Children playing in dusty yards, inventing games, chasing each other through summer afternoons. The serious work of childhood, playing, imagining, learning the world through make-believe. The stories we tell each other. About monsters who turn out to be neighbors. About ghosts who turn out to be guardians. About fear that turns out to be misunderstanding. About monsters who aren't monsters at all. Boo Radley, waiting all those years to be seen truly. Leaving his gifts, keeping his watch. Loving from a distance he couldn't cross. About heroes who are just people doing their jobs. Atticus Finch, going to work each day, trying to be fair, treating everyone with dignity. Nothing flashy, just steady goodness. About growing up and seeing clearly. Losing illusions but gaining something better. Understanding. Trading fear for compassion. Trading ignorance for wisdom. That's what Scout did. Scout's voice stays with us. That curious, fierce, honest voice telling us about her summer, her father, her neighbors, her world. A child making sense of things too big for children. That curious, fierce, honest voice. Never letting adults off the hook, asking the questions they'd rather not answer. Seeing through pretense to truth beneath. That's Scout's gift to us. She told us about her father, who did his best in an imperfect world. Who didn't always win but never stopped trying. Who taught by being, not by telling. Who did his best in an imperfect world. That's all any of us can do, really. Our best, with what we have, where we are. Atticus shows us that's enough. And that's all any of us can do. Tomorrow you might remember this story. A detail, a character, a moment that struck you. Or it might just have carried you to sleep. A detail, a character, a moment. Scout running through the mob to her father. Atticus shooting the rabid dog. Boo stepping out of shadows to save them all. Or it might just have carried you safely through this hour. Given you company in the darkness. A friend's voice telling you a story until you fell asleep. Either way, the story did its work. That's what stories do. They carry us somewhere else for a while. They let us live other lives. They give us rest. As all good stories do. They give us something to hold on to. A truth, a hope, a way of seeing. And then they let us go back into our own lives. They stay with us, become part of us. Scout and Atticus and Boo live in millions of minds now. They've become part of how we think about courage and compassion. Change how we see the world, even a little bit. Make us pause before judging. Make us wonder what we'd do in Atticus's place. Make us kinder to the Boo Radleys we meet. Even a little bit. That's how books change the world. Not all at once, but reader by reader, thought by thought, choice by choice. Small shifts adding up. So good night from Maycomb, Alabama. From Scout Finch's porch, where fireflies still blink on summer evenings. From the quiet streets where this story found its home. Where mockingbirds still sing in the morning. Innocent voices making music for anyone who'll listen. Asking nothing in return except to be left in peace. Where children still learn hard truths from watching their parents. Where courage still means fighting when you know you'll lose. Where compassion still matters most. That courage comes in quiet forms. Not always guns and glory. Sometimes just showing up day after day, doing right when no one's watching. That's the hardest courage. Thank you for spending this hour with Scout and Atticus and Boo. Thank you for letting Maycomb into your evening. Thank you for listening. Sweet dreams tonight. May your sleep be peaceful and your rest be deep. May you wake with Scout's wisdom tucked somewhere in your heart. It's simple, really. Remember what Scout said. Most people are real nice when you finally see them. That might be enough to carry with you. That might be everything. Most people are real nice when you finally see them. Good night from Maycomb. Good Good night from Scout. Sleep well, and we'll meet again in another story, another night.